Hi, this is Holger. Welcome to another Buchla Easel VST exploration. I want to walk you through one of Arturia's factory presets today, which is called Futur Retro and can be found in the keys section of the presets. I find this sound very interesting because it has got an intricate inner rhythmical movement. So let's explore how the sound and envelope generators are contributing to make that happen. I play you a little bit of the sound first. It's got a violin-like character. So let's head over to the interface and see what's going on. Good, so let's start with the complex oscillator over here. The timbre setting is set to a so-called impulse train wave, which can be imagined like a very short pulse wave, but it's asymmetrical. And we're losing some fundamental frequencies because of that. It sounds kind of a little bit hollowish. The modulation oscillator is directly hitting on the amplitude of the complex oscillator, meaning it interferes with the amplitude of the wave. If I turn that down, here the modulation amount, I hear much less movement. It's in low frequency mode too. Here you see the range, it's the low range, so it's moving very slowly. And if I turn the modulation back up again, you hear the interference. Right. There's another modulation destination over here. It's the amount of the frequency modulation. This in turn is modulated by the sequential voltage source over here. So if these steps move, you hear a shift in frequency of the modulation oscillator, which in turn, as said, is hitting on the complex oscillator. Turning this down, you hear all these intricate movements fade away. Turn this down, you almost have no modulation at all. So here to the right, your general modulation of the wave of the modulation oscillator, and here's the modulated frequency. Okay, so now why these strangely arbitrary rhythms? Here over here in the sequential voltage source, we see that the dots, the lights are not moving continuously, meaning something is changing their pace. And it is because the trigger select over here is set to pulsar, meaning that the pulsar rate now is controlling the speed of the sequential voltage source. Every time the gate closes, the steps are approaching. And the pulsar is running in free mode. This means that it is not synced by the computer or clocked by the internal clock of the Buchla Easel. It is running in its own pace. If we change the period over here and turn down the amount of the modulation, we hear that it gets a regular rhythm. So, since I mentioned that already, the amount of modulation that the period here of the pulsar goes through is modulated by the envelope generator, which gets its trigger from the keyboard and is running in transient mode, meaning that the sustain phase is controlled solely by this slider here, not by the length I press the keyboard note. This is also the reason why some of the notes have a long attack And if I'm in the cycle, the attack is pretty fast. Good. So we've got the modulation oscillator with its frequency modulated by the sequential voltage source, and the pulsar controlled by the envelope generator, which in turn is controlled by the keyboard. There's something that we're missing. There is this modulation CV out over here, which means that the some amount of the modulation oscillator envelope is given out here. It goes into the inverter, meaning that the reverse value of the modulation oscillator envelope is fed into the timbre modulation here. If we turn that up, you hear that the timbre gets much sharper. So that's about it. Many different modulation destinations here, creating that kind of arbitrary rhythm. Also on a side note, the channel B is turned down here. The modulation oscillator is running at that slower speed that you can't even hear it if you turn that up. I turn the channel A down, the complex oscillator, and I play the keyboard and you hear nothing. If I turn that frequency up, you should hear. No, you can't, because the level here is down. Pull up the level. Ah, now you hear it. So this would be the modulation oscillator starting to be in audio range. You hear the arbitrary movement of that frequency modulation. Okay, so that's about it. I found the patch very interesting because of its rhythmical applications, and hope you did too. Think about subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed the show, and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.